That was awesome. So now we have media analyst Simon Brown to talk to us. After that, we will be moving out.
That's great. Thanks very much, guys, and awesome turnout considering the weather. Absolutely fantastic. There's some very committed people here today. Now, there's a lot of deep constitutional and jurisprudential questions about this. 29 chapters, 2 foot thick. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to take a couple of examples to show how certification is really an extremely evil thing within the whole context of the TPP. So, looking at public health is really looking after as many people as we can. It started with water and sanitation. We moved to screening people and vaccinations. And now we've moved into the third phase of public health, which is really looking at human nutrition. Because around the world, in Australia, New Zealand, the US and Mexico, we're the 4th fattest nations in the world. And we have a crisis, an obesity epidemic, which is draining our health system with our unsustainable costs and human misery. Heart attacks, diabetes, strokes, high blood pressure, it's all going through the roof. And apparently, one statistic in the US in 2018, they are on target to have 90% of the people overweight and 50% of the people obese. That's 150 million obese people, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop. How do we deal with this? We deal with it through education and regulation. Regulation is the most effective. We can have plain paper controls on packaging for tobacco. We can have better food labelling, soda taxes, reduction of salt and so on, because education must have regulation to make it fully effective to make our population healthy. And we are getting to the TPP, we're getting there. So we need a lot of people to help a lot of interest groups. The New Zealand Medical Council, Diabetes Association, Heart Foundation. We need public submissions, scientific and documents and reports, lots of academic contributions. And these all lobby government. And when we get to lobby government, we make changes. Because we need to improve the population health in New Zealand, and we've got the mechanisms to do so. So let's take, for example, I'm the Minister of Health, and everybody's come to me with all these good ideas, and I then go to the Cabinet, we take it to Parliament, or I make some regulations to make these changes. But what if this system was to change, and that there was another level that I had to give these initiatives to before they could be approved? And that's where certification comes in. Because if we sign the TPP, American lawyers will have to vet everything as Minister of Health that I do, and they will have to say it's okay before we put that through. Let's take the example of plain paper packaging, because we know that smoking has been dropping from about 65% in 1964 down to 18%, and it's working. So I go and I say to Cabinet, we're going to put this in place. But before I do it, I have to give that to the man from New York who says whether I can pass that law or not. And he says, no, Simon, it's going to interfere with Philip Morris's profits. I'm sorry, you just can't do it. Well, what about a soda tax so we can give the money and promote some healthy food? No, you can't do that. It's going to interfere with the profits of Coca-Cola and Pepsi. And it goes on and on and on. So essentially, what can I do as Minister of Health if this is being blocked? If I'm the Minister of the Environment, how can I protect the environment if this is being blocked? If I'm the Minister of Labour, how can I help those people and workers if everything's going to be blocked? And that's what sovereignty means. It means Kiwis making Kiwi Laws in Kiwi Land. And they're about to stop it. And do you think this is a fantasy? I'll tell you what Sean Plunkett is. He says there's that nut of Black Lemming talking about conspiracy theories about people going to Wellington and trying to write our laws for us. Well, it's worse than that, people, because I've done a little homework. And the homework was on the Central American Free Trade Agreement, which was negotiated between 2004 and 2007 with 8 countries in South America. And what they did there was they signed the TPP, or well, the equivalent to the TPP, and then within the next 6 to 12 months, the Americans sent teams of lawyers into each of those countries, and before they could export one thing to America, they had to change all their domestic laws, the environment, labour and public health, and they did it. So if we think that we're going to get away with that, we're not. They have had 10 years and they have teams of people that come into Wellington that we don't even know about that are doing it. And do you think it's a coincidence that the labour laws that we've got at the moment the Employment Amendment Act, which takes away smokos and lunch breaks. Is that a coincidence? Is it a coincidence? Is it a coincidence that that employers can now walk away from collective bargaining?
No.
No, it's not. Is it a coincidence that 2/3 of the workers in this country now are on short-term, temporary or part-time work? No, it's not a coincidence. Because John Key is doing something better than certification. He's doing pre-certification, which means all these things are happening now in secret, so that when that's signed, he can start exporting immediately. So he's way ahead of the game. I don't like it.
Shame.
So, now that we know what our sovereignty is going to be rolled, who's behind this? Well, the National Party, John Keys, and Tim Grosser. Johnny Keys, he's a rock star, the banker from New York who worked for Merrill Lynch and then the Federal Reserve. He's got very powerful friends in very powerful places. He's part of the Bilderberg Group. Hands up, who knows what the Bilderberg Group is? It's getting better. It's the most powerful 200 people in the Western world, and he's one of them. And that since the end of the Second World War, their stated objective is to get rid of normal sovereign governments and replace them with corporate rule, and he's one of them. And it gets better than that. It's like an infomercial. But wait, there's even more. What's happened recently, who's heard of the IDU, the International Democratic Union?
Oi.
The International Democratic Union was started in 1983 by Margaret Thatcher and George W. Bush, and it's a mega conference for all the national parties in the world. And they had one recently, and on November the 14th, 2014, the 70 peoples from 63 countries voted in a new leader, a new Darth Vader, to take care of the neoliberal universe. Do you know who that person was? John Key! He's a rock star! But the question I have to ask you who are assembled here, whose side is he on? Is he on our side?
No.
Or is he on their side?
Yes.
Yes.
Is he working for us?
No.
Or is he working for them?
Yes.
There's one thing that John Key doesn't have. One thing with all that money, all that power, all those friends he doesn't. You know what that is, people? He doesn't have a wizard. He doesn't have a wizard. He doesn't have a wizard, but we do.
Yay. Woo.
And the one thing about the wizard is this. The wizard is kryptonite to lawyers. They shrink from it. And I want the wizard to come up here possibly later on. Here he is in the crowd now, and he will stand upon the stage and he will get his mighty staff and he will say to the 29-headed monster coming toward us like Gandalf himself, "Thou shalt not pass.
Yay.
Get back to whence you came, because you will not come here."
Yes.
Go the wizard. So with the help of the wizard and with the help of the people assembled today and in 22 other towns and cities in New Zealand, and for the 12 countries around the world where tens of thousands of people are marching today, we've had enough. And we want John Key to get some guts. Has he got enough guts to release the text? Because they have in Europe. So get some guts, John, and release the text. And that's what we're going to do, people. That's what we're going to do. Thank you very much.